It's early July and it's time to be extremely critical with what your food plots look like. And what I mean by that is you have to address your weed concerns. And I want to point out this right here. This is a food plot that we had high hopes for. We missed a spraying on this, and it appeared like open soil, but there's a lot of little green stuff growing on it. This on my client trip in June looked pretty good. And so now we're 6 weeks later. We threw down some clover, and you can kind of see some of these areas here where we have good clover growing, a good amount, an appreciable amount. And we have clover growing. It's down in here of varying ages, 6 weeks. It grew pretty quickly. You can see little bits of clover that's just starting to come in right here. There's chicory coming in. So we actually have a good base. In fact, this was planted with our spring drought attack perennial base. So we have our annual grass that's coming up. We have an annual rye that's coming in here. That's as a cover crop. It dies and you're left. It's not a perennial in any way, like the noxious weed stuff, and it's gone. So we have this clover. It's supposed to die. Problem is we have a bunch of pigweed in here, and that pigweed will take over. There is absolutely nothing we can do. We can mow this, but we're always just going to have a crop of pigweed that'll eventually shade out and kill the clover and dominate it. And grass is easy to get rid of in a perennial broadleaf plot. You just spray it with clethodim and you're done. You get it out very, very easily. However, when you have a noxious broadleaf plant like this, you have to address it. So I'm looking at this in early July. And when you start to see that your weeds are 50% of the plot or more, in this case 70-80%, and I can say we have a complete coverage of our clover, the perennial blend, but this weed is going to overtake it. So you need to be able to recognize that. You need to do it with a black and white look. Look at it very objectively. You can't look at this and say, well, I'm just not sure what to do. When you start to see that weeds are even 50% of the plot, 30% of the plot, I would even go as low as 25% of the plot, then something needs to be done, because there's no weeds that are good for a food plot. Let's say the deer liked browsing on this in here. They like browsing in the summertime. They don't like browsing on it in September, once the weeds are dying, October, November, December, January. So this space we have right here, let's say this is all the space we have. And I go to a lot of food plotters where, in Wisconsin, we have 3 1/4 acres. That's all we can squeak out of the area where we can plant. Maybe you only have an acre or 2 acres. Well, if we have weedy food plots, you can take over and turn that 2 acres that you have into a 1/4 acre of basically nothing, because it's spread so thin, it's low volume, they're poor plants, so you have to get rid of these weeds. You have to look at this very critically and say, we have a problem. But it's not too late. Even this pigweed right here responds really well to 2,4-D. So I would actually come in here, we will come in this week, we'll hit this with 1.5 pints per acre 2,4-D combined with 2 quarts per acre of glyphosate. Why not just glyphosate? Because the glyphosate is the weakest herbicide you can spray. It will not kill the pigweed. Repeat, it will not kill the pigweed. And more glyphosate doesn't do anything more. More 2,4-D is more powerful. More glyphosate is not. It's just an oversaturation point. So we want to look at this as we want a total killing of this. It's early July. What that sets us up for is to actually plant in early August and replant this area after we spray again. So I want to get 2 sprayings on this pigweed. I don't want a stitch of green in here when we put our fall crop in. So we want to get 2 more sprayings on this. I don't even care if it pushes my planting date back to mid-August. It just has to be done, and it has to be sprayed, or we're not going to have that good fall crop. We already have a great clover strip surrounding this. That was a part of a mix, 50% mix that we did. Extends all the way back here in front of the blind, all the way around, right through that throat down there. Beautiful, beautiful clover. It's looking outstanding. But then there's this separation here where we start getting into the weeds and it's turning into a big mess. So we have to get rid of it. So that being said, we get rid of it, you address it, you make sure you notice it, and then we're going to replant it for this fall. It's not something you'd ever want to wait till the spring. Some people actually take soil into the spring in a plot and they'll just frost seed. Very, very poor answer, because especially when we want to establish a perennial right here, we're going to use it with our Power Greens 365. It's like our Power Greens blend, but we put a perennial base to it, our perennial plot power. We combine, we mix up the Power Greens a little bit different, the fall power. And you know, it's designed to leave that perennial base. That's what we'll use in this spot. But bottom line is, we're establishing that perennial in the fall at a time when weeds are dying. Moisture is only on the increase. You get winter dormancy followed by another great shot in the spring. Perfect way to establish a perennial. And even if we just wanted to have an annual on here, we need to have it weed free. And then we can look at what we want to do, maybe a buckwheat blend the next year for the summertime, and then replanting in late summer. However you want to rotate. And this is a hunting plot, so we want clover and we want a perennial on here. So again, recognize that you have a problem. Be very critical. Even 25% of the for weeds right now is bad. Now, if it's a grass, I'd wait a couple weeks. If there's grass here instead of pigweed, I'd come in here, spray it with clethodim, and enjoy the season. I'd say, yeah, there's just grass. We can take that out of a broadleaf mix really, really fast. Very easy to do. So recognize you have a problem, address it. In this case, when we have broadleaf, I want to hit it with a strong concoction of 1.5 pints of 2,4-D, 2 quarts per acre of glyphosate. I want to spray it on there, and then I'm going to do it again. I'll wait a week, throw the seed down, and we'll be good for going into the hunting season sometime mid-August. You know, again, it's early July right now. And then when we spray, we're waiting a week to 10 days, and then we're putting down our fall crop with a perennial base. So that's what we need to do here. And there's some other areas around the property too. We're going to go by an area. We have some areas where we have buckwheat growing really well for our fall crop. You know, for going into the fall, we'll plant the fall crop into it after we terminate it. We'll have a great crop, but unfortunately there's some areas that have some weeds in the buckwheat that were missed in sprayings, whatever the reason. But we need to address those concerns. So it's the same time that we're smoking out this right now with the heavy 2,4-D and glyphosate, then we'll hit those areas as well. So, because I don't want weeds growing in the buckwheat. I don't want to actually terminate the buckwheat, have weedy areas, and then have a weedy strip. Because I want every square foot of food plot available for deer when they need it the most. They don't need it during the summertime right here. We have alfalfa all over the place. In your neck of the woods, as long as you're in the north half to 2/3 of the country, deer have several times more food than they need during the summertime, and quality food too. They don't need it. When they need it is when the weeds are dying, when the crops are picked, we're getting into winter dormancy for most plants. They need that ever increasing desire and need for them is October, November, December, January. It keeps getting worse. March, they really need food by March. And so we're giving them at a food time that not only complements our hunting, but actually complements the time where they need it the most. Just by coincidence, it's that same time period. And so get rid of the weeds, focus on having great food plots, and not only will you be rewarded hunting wise, but you'll be rewarded knowing you're helping the deer at a time when they need it the most, which is not during the summer. So get the weeds out, replant, and enjoy the season. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate you watching the videos. We have over 600 articles on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. It's all free. And I also appreciate those of you that check out our books. I have 5 books starting from 2012. We have web classes on the site, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. Check out Pure Wildlife Blends. I really appreciate you guys that have already purchased our seed. We've had thousands of people. We've shipped to 48 states. We have digital land management through whitetailstrategy.com. That's taking all these ideas and concepts I put in the YouTube videos and digitally transforming your land for you. And then finally, we have our clients and client visits. We'll visit over 300 clients as a group this year. We visit anywhere in the country. Boots on the ground is always the best, but we have a lot of ways to help you, from free to client visits and all in between. Check us out again, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, Pure Wildlife Blends, and whitetailstrategy.com.